The reality is that you will never make partner just by doing good legal work, and nobody tells young attorneys this. I've been a partner at an AmLaw 100 firm for about 5 years now, and I can tell you that the people who make partner fast aren't always the smartest lawyers. They're actually the ones who are building something in parallel while everybody else is just grinding it out and hoping that somebody notices. And if you don't start doing this early, you can quietly stall out, even if you're talented. So today I'm going to break down the real stages of a legal career ladder that nobody is going to teach you in law school or as a new associate, and the 2 skill sets you must build in parallel if you ever want to make partner. So let's start off by debunking some myths about what it actually takes to make partner and move up at a law firm. So a lot of people think that all it takes is being senior, is that, moving your way up, doing good work, and then suddenly magically you'll become partner, that you'll just kind of be elevated just because you've been around long enough. And that's really not the case. So firms actually reward revenue and not just effort or good work. And the reason is because compensation is based off of work that you bring in, work that you directly manage, in addition to work that you actually do yourself. And I have a full video that kind of talks about this in detail, about the business model of firms and what it actually takes in terms of numbers to make partner. But what it really comes down to is you're going to need your own clients if you ever want to be able to make partner at a big firm. So this leads us into the 2 skills that you need to build in parallel if you ever want to have a chance of moving your way up at a firm and ultimately making partner. And the first is a baseline of legal excellence. You have to be able to do good work. And really, this is just a matter of doing the reps, putting in the work. You think about Malcolm Gladwell and his 10,000 hours that it takes to master something. That's what this really is. You have to get exposure to a lot of legal work. You have to grind it out. You have to do it. You have to become good at it. There's really not a way to shortcut this and to get this done early. And you may have a bit of extra talent, but in a lot of ways, it really comes down to time. You have to learn the basic skills and give it time to learn those things. And strangely enough, this is actually something that happens naturally in a firm. This is something that a firm will teach you. They want you to become more efficient. They want you to get exposure to work. But the other key thing that you need, you don't get a lot of exposure to, surprisingly. And this is client development and handling skills. And surprisingly, this is not something that is a natural part of moving your way up at a firm. The reason is because partners, a lot of times, they're going to have you focus on just doing the work. They're going to manage the relationship with the clients, and you're going to just be doing work for other people. And so a lot of times, naturally, you're not going to get this exposure to bringing in clients and directly handling clients. Nobody is going to come and make you partner. You have to build that path yourself. And this is where people who end up being future partners distinguish themselves. They're the people who realize this early on. And in addition to doing the basic work and learning the skills of how to do great legal work, they're also learning how to do client development and client handling on their own. So how do you actually build client development and client handling skills? And this is something you can actually do at any point in your career, whether you're in law school or before law school or not even an attorney yet. This is something you can and should be doing early on. And the earlier you start learning these skills, the farther ahead you're going to be when it comes to working your way up at a firm and ultimately making partner. So the first is you have to get exposure to how business works and how business professionals communicate. That is the most critical thing. And this can be done through things like internships and clinics, jobs before law school. And honestly, it's the people who move up really fast are the people who had a first career in business before they came to law school or before they came to a firm. Those people have those soft skills and already understand those things that most people don't. And this was me, honestly. I came directly from undergrad to law school, and I had done some entrepreneurial stuff, but I didn't really understand how business truly worked. And so it was doing things like internships and running my own firm for a while where I really learned these important, critical skills that were ultimately going to allow me to do business development and actually handle clients. Those were some of the most important things that I learned in law school, honestly. And once you're able to get into a law firm setting, whether that is as a new associate or a summer associate internship while you're in law school, you need to start paying attention to how partners communicate with clients and how other associates and folks communicate with clients. That is going to be really critical, is learning how that communication goes and making sure that you focus on mastering that. And for instance, if you're not able to do a lot of that, if you're working on these projects where you're totally insulated from clients, make sure that you try to take on responsibilities where you can, or even do things like pro bono. A lot of times pro bono is a great opportunity to have hands-on client contact and get that critical practice of handling clients yourself. And the key here is getting practice. You need to practice business development skills. You need to practice client handling skills early on so that when the stakes are really high and you need to bring in business, you know what you're doing and have that experience. Otherwise, you're going to choke and not be ready for those opportunities. So how can you practice and get these business development and client handling skills regardless of where you are in your career? And the key here is to start building relationships early, regardless of whether you're in college or in law school or you're an early on associate at a law firm. You need to consider that the people around you, your colleagues, those people are going to be the future CEOs of companies or investors or in-house counsel folks like that. And having these connections are going to plant the seeds for your future practice and for future business development. A good example is in law firms. So a lot of people who start at law firms, they end up going in-house. And if you have good relationship with your colleagues, if they trust you, if they know you're somebody who can do great work and be depended on, when they go in-house, you can maintain those relationships and then get work from those people. So plant those seeds early, regardless of where you are in your career, and then you can use that to leverage yourself into having a practice where you're able to do business development based on this network that you've grown. And a great way to think about business development and networking skills is that it's all about practice and it's a numbers game. You need to start early and you need to practice a lot because those are going to be the skills that are going to plant the seeds for you growing this partnership practice maybe 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road. So start early. Start with networking and create real relationships with people, and you have to be consistent. Consistency is key because the thing that even if it's less effective, if that thing you're able to do consistently, that's going to be way more effective than the theoretically great thing that you never actually do. And part of the experimentation process is figuring out what you're good at. Some people are good at going to events and working the room. A lot of people aren't. They hate that. So find things you are good at, that you enjoy, and find your strengths and find your weaknesses, which are almost important in some ways. And that takes, again, it takes time and it takes experimentation. Some of the things that are especially easy these days to start with are social media. And I have a full video on how to build a brand on social media, how critical that is to your long-term success in the legal field. And also writing, speaking engagements, those are also great practice. Those are things that are awesome, that are a lot of times evergreen content that you can use for a long time. And it's great to practice those skills as well. And one thing that's overlooked, especially early on by folks, is how important small clients can be to getting practice with handling clients and doing business development so you can be ready when those bigger and better clients come along. And think of it like, it's playing in the minor leagues. You need to start in Little League before you can move up to bigger stuff and move into the big leagues, right? And a lot of times, smaller clients are a great way to do this. So you have these early conversations with folks, and this is just in talking to potential new clients. You learn a lot from that. Those are really great experiences. You're able to get a filter as to who are going to be good clients, who are going to be people who are going to be great clients to work with, and who are going to be terrible clients to work with, who are viable clients who can actually pay and who are actually going to do work and aren't just going to waste your time. And so for me, I was lucky. I was able to start my own firm while I was in law school because I took what is called the patent bar. It allowed me to practice doing patent law essentially as a patent agent before I became an attorney. And I spent time trying to build my own practice, which ended up being fine, but there was a lot of experimentation and time wasted. I did ads on Craigslist and had some like the worst client interaction you could ever think of. But this was important because it allowed me to learn what good clients were and what bad clients were, and how to handle good clients and how to handle bad clients. And it took a long time of this before then I was ready and I was actually able to bring on bigger and better clients because I knew what I was doing. I had the confidence, I had the business development skills, and I had the client handling skills so I could actually attract and keep those big clients. And I would not have been able to do that had I not practiced with smaller clients. And that's something that folks should not overlook earlier in their career. So how can you actually get business development and client handling skills early on in your career. So one of the things, especially if you're at a firm, you need to find partners who are business development positive, who want to help associates do that, and make it clear that you want to learn those skills. It's all about putting that out there, saying, hey, if there are people who email you, even if it's a total waste, even if they sound like really small clients, I would love to talk to those people and work with those partners as well, and realize you're probably going to totally waste their time. And this is something that I actually enjoy a lot of times working with associates is, they bring on some client, they say, oh yeah, I was talking to this person and, they totally want to do patent work because I'm a patent attorney and I can help folks with that. And I say, okay, fine, we'll talk to them. And a lot of times it's a total waste of time. It's not somebody who could ever actually do patent work. They can't actually afford it. But those are really important experiences for the associates because they can learn the skills of doing client intake. So having people ask the basic questions about, hey, well, what is a patent? How does it work? Should I file a provisional or non-provisional? All these things that I remember the first time I had to do this with clients when I had my own firm. It was scary as hell. I didn't know what I was doing. And it took a long time of having those initial meetings and having those awkward conversations before I was able to do it in my sleep, and it was really easy. So do what you can to get exposure to those situations. If there are cold calls or cold emails, or if there are small clients that partners don't want to deal with, volunteer to take those people on. And in the beginning, you're probably going to have to be supervised by partners, but find people who want to supervise people, who want to mentor people with business development. That's going to be really important before you're able to actually do those things yourself. And really pay attention to things like onboarding clients. Like, how do you work the relationship with getting retainers or having them sign an engagement letter? How does the staff set up new matters and set up new clients? Try to get involved in those processes so you understand it. Also understand things like pricing, about setting expectations with clients, doing billing. Try to get exposure to those things because the earlier you can learn those skills, the better you're going to be when you have your own clients and have to do it on your own. So if I were able to go back and give myself advice, say in law school or as a new associate, and if I wanted to give myself advice to be able to make partner faster, one would be is learn the basics, learn how to be a really, really solid attorney, that you need to have that baseline, but you also need to be learning networking, business development, and client handling skills, and that those are going to be the key things that are going to really be able to launch you into partnership as you get more senior. And it's something that you need to start on today. And luckily, I did a lot of that. I was entrepreneurial, and so I kind of got maybe a leg up in some ways. But it's something I still feel like I was way behind on. I did not have the skills. I was again out of undergrad straight into law school, so I didn't have those skills. And I wish I would have gotten more experience with business, doing internships, things like that. Those would have been really critical things, and especially then early on in my career, doing direct client handling and really asking partners how the process is done. I wish I would have done more of that. And I would also tell my younger self that building a book of business is not just luck. It's building a long-term habit. So you have to be able to plant the seeds that will grow long-term into the forest that will be your big practice. And once you start doing business development, you need to have a personal brand. Otherwise, people won't remember you or even know why they should hire you. So check out this next video where I break down exactly how to build a personal legal brand that's going to attract clients.